Okay, next topic, folks. We're skipping from chapter 1, which was Introduction to the Design Process, to chapter 7, which is teams. We're going to talk about teams. Okay, groups and teams. Why do we work on teams? We're going to go over these kinds of things, managing team conflict, developing a contract, and so forth. These are a couple of our past teams, by the way. Working on design teams. Frustrated student. I could have finished this project 2 weeks ago and had a much better report if only I worked alone. Working on teams not only slows me down, actually sucks me backwards. I can't wait to graduate so I won't have to rely on any more teams anymore. Frustrated students. Well, I've got some bad news for you. You're going to rely on teams. Rest of your professional career, any field you go into. So learning how to manage them is important. Here's just a couple of humorous examples of what happens when teams don't communicate. What if the Transcontinental Railroad was built this way, or bridge was built this way? This looks real. It isn't. It's a fake photo. That didn't really happen. One reason this doesn't happen is that there is good communication these days between the various teams involved in civil engineering. That this probably won't happen. Other things can happen, like the Hyatt Regency disaster, because people didn't communicate well. Even with the best technical skills, you can only do so much alone. Consider recent technical advances. Early 1800s, muskets had 51 parts, and you'll recall that this was about the time of mass production. 1860, Springfield rifles 140, bicycles 200, automobiles 10,000, Boeing 747 5 million, 10,000 hours of person years design times. So one person couldn't do that. They couldn't even design it. Expectations for team members. Let's pop over to there. Okay, here's what we popped over to. Code of cooperation. Carry out assignments on schedule. Show respect for the contributions of all team members. Active listening. Constructively criticize ideas, not people. Constructive conflict resolution, and so forth. One person speaks at a time, and so forth. So let's get back to our PowerPoint. And here's the little picture here of the elephant spraying the zebras. Just a little kind of graphic about being a good team member. He was helping get them cool. Okay. Cross-functional. That teams may be made up of several people from different departments, so they don't have one reporting structure, but they have to cooperate. It ensures diversity and, I didn't want to do that, diversity and complementary skills, a skill set to meet the task in front of them. And the total skills might not be in one department, they might be elsewhere. Success and individual success. Team success results of everybody contributing. A member may sacrifice personal growth to take one for the team. But in the balance, it should come back. That if they take one for the team one time, somebody else takes it the next time. Balancing act. If one person always takes it, That's not good. So, little cartoon, 57 team managers, 36 project coordinators, 63 concept implementers. Not bad for a company with only 18 employees. If the project is simple, they require quick decisions, and the best example is in the military. And if the team is dysfunctional, they're not great. So we are learning how to work on teams. Our projects may be kind of simple. One person could do it. But we need to learn also. It's not just the project that counts. It's learning how to get along in a team that's important for this course and for engineering in general. So think about this. Discuss this with your team members. Brainstorm offline. Characteristics of good teams, and what do the team members have? Characteristics of bad teams, and what did they have? Half of the job is relationships, keeping teams together. Effectiveness, that middle circle, completing tasks and satisfying member needs. Task-oriented behaviors, initiating, proposing, defining tasks, suggesting procedures, ideas, uncovering facts and information, seeking, sharing, contributing your knowledge, clarifying, clearing up confusion, summarizing, finding the consensus of the team, agreeing each member can live with the decision. You might not come up with the decision everybody likes, but you want to come up with a decision everybody can live with. It might not be top of their list. It might not be their first choice, but it's their second or third maybe. But they can live with it. And there are people who are very dominating, and we've had some teams like that it's my way or the highway. Everybody else on the team resents it. They don't contribute work, and they don't get projects done, frankly. Okay. Relationship. Pay attention to others' ideas. Here's where don't dominate. Seek agreement. Merits of ideas, not people. Invite everybody to participate. Encourage, not judgmental, friendly, responsive to others. Compromising, accept workable alternatives. Ground rules, codes of behavior. Teaming pyramid, common goal and purpose. Goals, specific, measurable, realistic, timely. SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Remember that acronym. So that's what you're striving for. Roles, what each member of the team is responsible for. Procedures, this is not the procedure to make something. This is what to do if somebody's always late. What are we going to do about that? Or misses meetings, or doesn't finish their things on time. What are you going to do about that? Ground rules. And then relationships. That takes time. It takes trust. You have to respect each other, and you have to learn to respect. It's not immediate. It's not built in. We'll get into that later. 5 stages of team development. And sometimes I call it 4. Form, storm, norm, perform, and then transition. That means one team ends and you go on to the next team. So forming, we'll get into those stages, but just remember, form, storm, norm, perform. Form, storm, norm, perform. 1, 2, 3, 4. Forming stage. People are feeling each other out. Expectations aren't clear. People don't know what their task is going to be, what their role is, and they withhold their feelings. Lots of superficial talk. So takes a while, clarifying roles and goals, and then you could move on to the storming stage. This is where you start to get conflict. interpersonal conflict, learning how to get along with each other, group polarization, pecking orders. So clarify roles, listen, resolve those conflicts. We'll get into that later also. Um, Task type things that can happen. Establishment of unachievable goals, excessive work. You don't know exactly what you're going to do. So sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. Okay. Norming stage. Now we start to get a sense of everybody is working together. You've resolved conflicts. Everybody is listening and getting input from others, and they're working together, and they're starting to click. Communication's more open. Things are openly shared, and you get more harmony. People start trusting each other. And then the performing stage. This is where you've gotten past the conflicts, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they do it. Okay. Roles. Several roles. Leader, that's somebody who can minimize conflicts, keep everybody, oops, I didn't want to do that, keep everybody on task. Facilitator might not be a member of the team. They just help people get past conflict. Motivator, members, finish on time. Gatekeeper, quiet's a verbose member, somebody who talks a lot. Balances out, encourages participation. Timekeeper, keeps everybody on schedule. Recorder, secretary. Devil's advocate, I want to take that. Looks for problems, criticizes ideas. And the Wright brothers are a great example of that. Because when Orville had an idea, he would argue for it for 15 minutes, and Wilbur would argue against it. And then Wilbur would argue for it, and Orville would argue against it for 15 minutes. And that way, they were able to expose the pros and cons of an idea and look at things objectively. Because that's what you want to do. We're going to get into tools to be objective. Members, most important. They usually come together because they have skills that are needed for the team. Okay. So, selecting team members. Do they have the needed skill? Are they open-minded, creative? Are they invested in the team's success? Diversity. You want people with diverse talents, creative, open-minded, committed to the task, and so forth. Good team members work for consensus, share openly, trust, owns the problem rather than blaming others, listens, hears other people's points of view, involves people, and so forth. Okay. Leadership is a quality, not necessarily a role. You want to focus on the purpose, building the team, training, using resources effectively, planning, and running effective meetings, and all these other things too. You can read them on your own. May be appointed. Leaders may be appointed by the sponsor, selected by the team. If the leader is a supervisor, has to be careful not to dominate. We talked about directive behaviors, the task-oriented behaviors, supportive, involvement, listening, resolving personal conflicts, praising excellent work, reassurance, and support. Okay. Styles, leadership styles. Autocratic, that's the dictator. And there's leadership books have talked about all sorts of different styles, all of these different styles, and more. But we're going to boil it down to three basics. The dictator, group decisions, and then everybody does their own things. Usually for engineering groups, we want to be the group decision making, not strictly democratic. Participative might be a better word. People participate, you come to group decisions, you use decision tools like decision matrices and things like that. Okay. Good leaders. Reliable sense of humor, skilled at resolving conflict, and so forth. Respected by the team members. Team structures, traditional, that's your dictatorial, your strong leader. The leader makes all the decisions. Decisions are fast, but it may stifle creativity, and team members might not buy into it. The military uses this structure because speed is incredibly important on the battlefield. And the subordinates understand that. They're trained in that. Why the chain of command is important. Participative. This is more like an engineering team where you do have a coordinator that kind of pulls everything together, channels people, but doesn't dictate to people. Takes advantage of diversity and talent. Decision making is slower, but decisions are more likely to have buy-ins from everybody. And it is goal-oriented. Flat. No leader or coordinator. Everybody does their own thing. Well-rounded decision. Creativity can flourish, but crises and deadlines, they have a goal, but they may lose track of it. They may wander. And those goals can fluster a team with a flat structure. The atomic bomb project in World War II was a good example of that. Oppenheimer they had a goal. They needed the bomb to defeat Japan. They thought they'd need it to defeat Germany. But so he needed people to work on this. Well, he had one member of his team, and that was Edward Teller, he wanted to work on what was called the super, which was the hydrogen bomb. And Oppenheimer was saying, no, let's get the atomic weapon done first. And Teller would keep pulling and he was disruptive. So Oppenheimer cut him loose, put him off in a lab all by himself to do his thing. 8 years after the atomic bomb came the hydrogen bomb. It would not have been in time for World War II. So that's what Oppenheimer had to do. Had to cut one member loose who just wouldn't cooperate in a participative structure. Okay, ground rules. So remember, I'm going to go through this fast just to save time on the videos. These rules are in your handouts. They're in the folders, the Google folders that you guys can get to. Hopefully there's no more broken links and things like that. Teams, members with complementary skills, mutually accountable. Stages, form, storm, norm, perform, and then transition. If I want only 4 stages, I will say the form, storm, norm, perform. Okay, let's conclude there. And we'll go on to chapter 8 next. By the way, I'm going to split this video. It's almost 20 minutes long, so I'm going to split it in 2, but the split might give you, there isn't a good transition, so to speak.